The sports world exploded this week when ESPN analyst Monica McNutt crossed a line nobody expected, bringing innocent children into a controversial race narrative about Caitlin Clark. During what should have been a standard basketball discussion, McNutt shocked viewers by suggesting little girls only support Clark because of her race. The backlash was swift and merciless as fans, parents, and fellow analysts called out this divisive take. McNutt's comments weren't just ill-timed during the WNBA's biggest viewership surge ever. They completely contradicted the diverse reality visible in arenas nationwide. The regret was written all over her face as this take imploded in real time. And now she's being called out for it. She had said some ridiculous things during an interview. And people just can't believe this, frankly. But it's where we're at. ESPN, I guess, I don't know what they would do if they couldn't race bait at this point. I don't know that they've got another pivot in them at all. And again, this is one of the reasons so many people are turning off ESPN, and shows like Around the Horn are getting cancels. Let's break down exactly what happened and why Monica McNutt's comments ignited such an immediate firestorm across the basketball world. During a recent ESPN segment discussing Caitlin Clark's impact on the WNBA, McNutt made the stunning claim that little girls have gravitated to Clark primarily because of her race. The one thing that I cannot deny is the amount of little girls that were showing up to follow her. Little girls with their parents and the fervor and the energy there, McNutt said before adding the controversial part. But I think Caitlin represented, and again, some of this to me probably is not fair to her because it was not anything that she said, but she was a white girl from the middle of America, and so she represented a whole lot to a lot of people. The reaction was immediate and intense. Viewers couldn't believe McNutt had just suggested that children's admiration for Clark was driven by racial bias rather than her extraordinary basketball abilities. It wasn't just a controversial sports take, it was an accusation about the motives of young fans who simply love watching great basketball. What makes this situation particularly troubling is how McNutt framed innocent children as evidence in her race theory. She didn't just question Clark's popularity among adults, she specifically highlighted little girls as the demographic supposedly making race-based decisions about which athletes to support. This crossed a line that even seasoned sports commentators rarely approach. Yet, instead of appreciating Clark for leading the WNBA out of the abyss and into the mainstream conversation, mean girls and race clowns met her with resistance. Think about that for a second. Instead of acknowledging that kids might be drawn to Clark's record-breaking soaring, her logo three-pointers, or her incredible no-look passes, McNutt chose to inject race into their motivations. How is that fair to those young fans who just want to enjoy the game? The timing couldn't have been worse for the WNBA. The league is experiencing unprecedented growth, with attendance, viewership, and merchandise sales all reaching record highs. Clark's arrival has undeniably accelerated this growth, bringing countless new fans to women's basketball. Rather than celebrating this golden era, McNutt's divisive comments threatened to derail the positive momentum by creating unnecessary tension. What's particularly striking is how McNutt's claims completely contradict the reality visible in arenas across the country. The actual crowds at WNBA games tell a very different story than McNutt's narrative. Diverse fans of all backgrounds have been packing venues to watch Clark play, showing that her appeal transcends racial boundaries. The video evidence makes McNutt's race-based argument look completely disconnected from what's actually happening in the real world. Social media erupted immediately after McNutt's comments hit the airwaves. Critics from various outlets pointed out how she was diminishing Clark's athletic accomplishments by suggesting her success was somehow tied to her race rather than her extraordinary abilities on the court. The criticism highlighted a much bigger conversation about how we discuss race in sports and whether such discussions help or harm the athletes involved. One commenter said, "None of that is why there's a bunch of little kids. If you have a problem with Caitlin Clark, just say it with your chest. Say it with your chest. Go out and try to make that argument." Another critic pointed out, "You think she's the first white woman in the WNBA. This gets to the heart of why McNutt's argument falls apart under scrutiny. If Clark's popularity is really about race, then why didn't earlier white WNBA stars create the same phenomenon? The WNBA has featured numerous successful white players throughout its history. Rebecca Lobo, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, and Breanna Stewart aren't just random names. They're legends of the game who dominated for years. These women had massive fan bases, championship rings and Olympic gold medals. If white fans were only interested in watching white players, why weren't they filling arenas decades ago? The historical evidence completely contradicts everything McNutt tried to sell viewers. Even more tellingly, Clark was breaking viewership records at the University of Iowa long before she ever stepped foot on a WNBA court. Her college games consistently drew massive audiences that had never watched women's basketball before. Are we supposed to believe that all these new fans suddenly discovered women's basketball because of Clark's race, or could it be her historic scoring record and electrifying style of play that actually attracted them? McNutt wants us to ignore all the basketball reasons people watch Clark: the logo three-pointers, the no-look passes, the record-breaking performances, and instead believe it's just about race. It's not only wrong, it's an insult to basketball fans everywhere who recognize greatness when they see it, regardless of what the player looks like. Looking at the facts, Clark's games deliver more exciting offensive plays, more three-pointers, and more highlight reel moments than average WNBA games. That's why people tune in. They're not checking the racial makeup of the teams before deciding which games to watch. They're looking for entertainment and exceptional basketball ability, exactly what Clark provides. The exceptional basketball ability Clark brings to the court is fundamentally transforming what we thought was possible in women's basketball. Remember when Steph Curry revolutionized the NBA with his long-range shooting? Clark is doing the exact same thing for the women's game, extending the court and creating spacing that generates an entirely different viewing experience. This basketball revolution is precisely what McNutt's race narrative completely misses. As one critic put it, it's like in 2015 when Steph Curry took over. It's the style of play. We've seen it before on the men's side. When somebody has a style of play that people really want to tune into, really want to watch, and makes people excited to tune in, they will watch. When Clark pulls up from the logo, we're talking 30 to 35 feet from the basket. She's not just scoring points, she's literally changing the geometry of how defense works in women's basketball. Defenders now have to guard areas of the court they've never had to worry about before. This completely transforms offensive strategies and spacing, creating a more dynamic game that fans are naturally drawn to. It's like watching basketball evolve right before your eyes. Clark's impact extends far beyond just shooting range. She possesses elite court vision that allows her to thread passes through defensive coverages that most players wouldn't even attempt. These no-look dimes and full-court assists create the kind of viral moments that spread across social media within minutes, drawing in viewers who might not otherwise watch women's basketball. When a highlight hits your feed showing Clark threading an impossible pass between three defenders, you don't think about her race. You think, I need to see more of that. One commentator pointed out, if it was anybody of any kind of color and they carried themselves the way Caitlin Clark does on and off the court, and I'm sorry, but she's better than all the players that we're bringing up here. And that's the big thing. She's better than those players. The viewing experience of a Fever game with Clark on the court is fundamentally different from what WNBA fans have seen before. The pace quickens, the scoring rises, and the possibility of a jaw-dropping play increases dramatically. This style is particularly appealing to younger fans who've grown up watching the three-point revolution in the NBA. They're not tuning in because of some racial identification. They're watching because Clark delivers the fast-paced, high-scoring action they crave. What's fascinating is how Clark's college achievements created a narrative that fans wanted to follow into her professional career. Her record-breaking runs at Iowa established a foundation of interest that transcended typical women's basketball viewership. Fans became invested in her journey, not her ethnicity. They watched her break scoring records and lead deep tournament runs, creating emotional connections that carried forward when she entered the professional ranks. The surge in viewership for Fever games compared to previous seasons tells the real story. It's about basketball innovation, not race. When you watch Clark play, you're not thinking about demographics. You're witnessing someone redefine what's possible on a basketball court. An observer pointed out the obvious flaw in McNutt's argument. I watched a lot of those videos of those kids coming up after games and her signing autographs. There were a lot of little black girls amongst those kids, so I wonder if this is really as big an issue as Monica McNutt wants to make it out to be. I think what she's saying is ridiculous. And to tie it to little girls, I mean, we're hitting whole new levels of bottom feederness here. Just as the WNBA is finally getting the spotlight it deserves after years of incredible play, some commentators are choosing division over celebration. What happens when media figures like McNutt drag race into every Clark conversation? It doesn't just create awkward TV moments, it actively threatens to tear apart the diverse coalition of new fans who are discovering this league for the first time and falling in love with the game, regardless of who's playing. One critic summed it up, "That's equally as embarrassing. You have essentially relegated Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark to the color of their skin. Are you not embarrassed? These are good basketball players in their own right. This is the tragic irony of our current moment. The WNBA is experiencing its greatest growths forever. New ticket sales, merchandise flying off shelves, and social media buzzing with highlight clips. But instead of riding this wave of excitement, certain commentators seem determined to create artificial divisions among fans who were never thinking about race until someone told them they should be. You can see it happening in real time. New fans tune in for amazing basketball, and suddenly find themselves bombarded with commentaries suggesting they need to pick a racial team, as if enjoying Caitlin Clark's logo threes somehow means you can't also appreciate Angel Reese's dominance in the paint. It's a false choice that nobody asked for and nobody wants. The damage goes deeper than just uncomfortable viewing experiences. These race-focused narratives are actively harmful to every player in the league. When commentators suggest Clark's popularity must be due to her race, they're simultaneously implying that the incredible talents of black stars aren't enough to draw fans on their own merit, a ridiculous notion that insults both the players and the intelligence of basketball fans. Think about a 10-year-old girl watching her first WNBA game this season. She doesn't care about these adult arguments. She just wants to see amazing athletes doing incredible things. But instead of being welcomed into a community that celebrates excellence regardless of background, she's thrown into this manufactured controversy. How many potential lifelong fans are we losing because some commentators can't see past skin color to the actual basketball? One commentator noted, "If it was up to this league, you know what, they'd rather see it crash and burn, and that nobody tuned in, than allow it to grow on the back of Caitlin Clark and her fandom." What makes this especially frustrating is how unnecessary it all is. The WNBA has the perfect opportunity to unite fans across every demographic through shared appreciation of athletic excellence. But that unity doesn't generate clicks or controversy. Race baiting does, and that's exactly why some media figures can't seem to let it go, even as it threatens the very league they claim to support. A particularly pointed criticism asked, "Are you not embarrassed, Monica McNutt?" And I mean that. Are you not embarrassed that we've got the most exciting player in the league, and you have relegated her to the color of her skin and where she's from? Let's face it, the numbers don't lie. When fans pack arenas to watch women's basketball, they're there for the crossovers, the no-look passes, and those logo threes, not because of some racial scorecard. What McNutt and others miss is that basketball excellence transcends everything else. The sport grows when we celebrate athletic achievement and the excitement of the game, not divisive identity politics. Post-Olympic break, the argument became solely just about basketball. One observer noted, when the WNBA season ended, it basically just became about basketball. That is all people talked about was the basketball. When Caitlin made the All-WNBA first team, it became about the basketball. The most powerful evidence against McNutt's claim comes from the young fans themselves. Children watching Clark play are responding to her game. It's not her identity. Kids don't calculate demographic representation when they're choosing their sports heroes. They're drawn to exceptional skill, exciting plays, and the joy of watching someone do things they've never seen before. This brings us back to the central problem with McNutt's comments. By suggesting that little girls are making racially motivated decisions when they cheer for Clark, she's projecting adult perspectives onto children who simply love basketball. It's not just wrong, it's robbing these young fans of the pure joy that sports should bring. The aftermath of McNutt's comments reveals something important about today's sports media landscape. There's a growing disconnect between certain commentators focused on identity politics and the actual fans who just want to watch great athletes compete. McNutt's regret should serve as a warning to others who might be tempted to reduce complex athletic achievements to simplistic racial narratives. What's particularly striking about this controversy is how it runs counter to the actual unity visible in WNBA arenas. When you look at the crowds at Indiana Fever, you see a diverse mix of fans cheering together, sharing in the excitement of the moment. Those scenes represent the true spirit of basketball. People from all backgrounds united by their love of the game. The beautiful truth is that kids watching their first Fever game don't see black or white. They see heroes making impossible shots. That's the future of women's basketball. United by talent, not divided by race. And that's something all basketball fans can cheer for. McNutt's comments reveal a troubling disconnect between some basketball analysts and the young fans they're supposed to be welcoming. Kids don't care about race-based narratives. They care about logo threes, no-look passes, and basketball magic. The WNBA's explosion in popularity isn't about identity politics. It's about the game evolving before our eyes. What's your take on this controversy? Should commentators focus on basketball skills instead of divisive race narratives?